Hello, and thank you for checking out our video on admission essays. I am Mr. Weber from the CCRC, and today we're going to be exploring the admission essay, why it's important, how you can have a good admission essay, and we're also going to use some tips from some of our admission counselors at some schools that I know a lot of our students like to apply to. Like I said, I am Mr. Weber from our CCRC, and we are always available to help you with your career and college needs. But first, we need to talk a little bit about the context of an admission essay. This is what I like to call the admissions portfolio. So, at this point, you're probably familiar with the idea that you'll be filling out applications for the colleges and universities that you're interested in attending. You also are most likely aware that this application, which can encompass many different things depending on the schools that you're applying to, is what the admission counselor is going to actually review in order to decide if they want to say yes and accept you or no and deny your admission. Now, there's more to it than just an application, and I like to point that out to students because a lot of times I'll talk to a student and they'll say, well, I filled out my application. Great, but did you do X, Y, and Z, the other stuff they ask for? And a lot of times that answer might be no. And I think it's very important for seniors to think about not an application, but more of a portfolio. It's a total review of everything that they want, and it includes the application. So this will have your application, which has lots of general information about you. It'll also have your transcript, which is a separate part to this portfolio, and that's a record of your classes that you took in high school and the grades that you received in those classes. Now, unless you're applying to a test optional school, they're also going to want to see your ACT or your SAT score. After these three standard items, the university or the college, they might ask for more stuff. And that could be maybe a resume, an admission essay, or two, or three, or four. You get the point. Or even letters of recommendation from your teachers, your counselors, coaches, somebody who can sing the praises of why you should be accepted to this school. Now, this is more than just an application. So you can see why I like to tell students, don't think of it just as the application. Think of it as a little bit more, as a whole portfolio. And all of these things are going to work together to let this admission counselor know why they should accept you to their college. So what is the purpose of an admission essay? Well, simply put, the admission counselor is going to review your application and they want to learn more about you. They've seen the classes that you've taken and what grades you got in those classes. They also saw the activities in your application, but this essay is your chance to actually talk and to make your case. This is especially important for those test optional schools because they might not be using an ACT or an SAT to help them decide if they're going to accept or deny you. Your admission essay should fill in any gaps in your application, or as I like to call it, that admissions portfolio. Other things that your admission essay could be useful for, this could be your time to answer a question that they might have. Maybe you see that on your transcript, you're an A and B student, but you got a D in chemistry or in math. Something happened that's different. Talk about it because they're going to wonder. So this is your chance to explain it and not have it just be a red flag or a question mark. You can also talk about any difficulties that you've overcome that you haven't already addressed, especially if, let's say, sophomore year, your grades took a dip, but they took a dip because of health issues, family issues. Maybe you were getting a new job and you were working 30 hours a week. That's going to have an effect on the rest of your application. So you can talk about those situations here.
So I really enjoy reading essays because it allows a person like myself who's evaluating you and your application to learn a little bit more about who you are. I'm going to know how you did in biology and, what your teacher has to say about you. But the essay is just another piece to the puzzle that we get to put together when we are getting to know you through your college application. So a couple of pieces of advice that I always suggest is that Your essay doesn't have to be about like the saddest thing that's ever happened to you. It can be about something positive and exciting. At a place like Loyola, we don't have a specific prompt, so you really can choose to talk about whatever it is that you'd like to share. And some of my favorite essays have been about things that have nothing to do with school and are just more about you and giving us a little window into, how you spend your time or the person that you are. And my other piece of advice is to always proofread. I know that sounds so silly and it sounds like I'm your English teacher, but I have seen many, many essays that the simple thing of changing the school's name that you're sending it to, it makes me think, when did I start working at that school when I read that essay? So make sure to proofread, have somebody take that last final look over, but don't be afraid to share who you are and what makes you you.
So let's get into some of these key tips for writing an admission essay. The first thing I have to say is write something that is important to you. Because if you're bored while you're writing it, they're going to be bored while they're reading it. Another reason why it's important to write something that's important to you is because they want to know what makes you tick. They want to know what the interesting facts are. They want to know that when you come to this campus, you are going to make it better. I always think it's okay to be personal, whether that is getting into some issues that you may have faced, whether that is talking about the things that you really, really are passionate about. Feel free to actually get personal. You don't have to, but I think that a lot of times when you start to get personal, the writing tends to improve. Whether it's due to that passion or it's something that they can tell you care about, or it's just the fact that you have a lot to say, because we all have a lot to say about ourselves. You can be a critic, but only if you're going to show that you've progressed. If you're going to say, I did poorly in this class, okay, that's fine, but how have you improved since then? Remember, you're trying to give them reasons to accept you. Don't give them reasons to deny you. Being a critic is fine, but only when you use that criticism to show why you've grown, how you've grown, and why that's a good thing. It might be useful to say, I did poorly, but now I dedicate 30 minutes every night to studying and reading, or even if it's just as simple as I never studied before, and now I make sure to get together with friends and study before a test. One crucial thing that you need to do is follow the directions. If they ask for a specific thing in a prompt, that's what you give them. If they say, why do you want to come to our school? You have to tell them why you want to go to the school. If you show them in your admissions essay that you can't follow directions, what they just learned about you is that you can't follow directions. And that might be a bad thing when you're in college class.
I also really encourage you to make sure that you answer the prompt. So a lot of schools are going to have prompts through the Common application. They're also going to have prompts maybe through their own application if they have an institutional app. So whatever prompt you're answering on whichever application you choose to submit, make sure that you are answering the prompt. Make sure that you're not just going on a tangent or using an essay that you wrote, for a different class or for a different college or something like that and just trying to make it fit. Rather, make sure you really are answering that specific prompt for that essay that you are completing. And then the last thing I would say, it's a common mistake I see, especially when students are submitting their Common application. Make sure that you don't name a specific school in your Common application. It's a Common application because it is being sent to usually several schools. It's one Common app you send to a lot of places. So you wouldn't want to mention Marquette and you're also sending it to Illinois State or U of I or wherever else you're deciding to apply. So make sure, again, you don't mention a specific school, especially if you're writing an essay for the Common App. And have fun essay writing. It's supposed to be a really fun process.
It's very important that you remember when you are writing your admissions essay, when you start writing it, this is not something that you do in one attempt. It is definitely okay to write something and we're not there yet. Write it again. Write it a third time. You don't have to get it right in one attempt. You have multiple drafts. You can even have multiple essays. But the sooner you start, the better you are, because you'll have more time on your side to write multiple drafts. If you're going to be someone that waits until the day the application is due, and then you start writing your admissions essay, now you might only have one attempt. You got to make sure you get someone to proofread this. That is a must. It is crucial that somebody proofreads, and somebody you trust proofreads this admissions essay. I'd also suggest that you read it aloud to yourself so you can hear how it sounds. Now, when you're writing this, I want you to know that you have a specific word count for almost every single admissions essay you're going to write. They're going to say you've got 500 words, 650, 250, 1,000 words. They're going to tell you a specific word count you have. And those words oftentimes can go quickly if you're going to write useless words. What you want to make sure you do is write what you need to write. And an important thing that I need to add with this, when it comes to don't waste your word count, remember what you're writing about. Address the prompt. Don't add extra things if you don't need to add extra things. One thing that people do all the time is they don't tell their story. They end up talking about grandma or grandpa, but this is about you. This is your admissions essay. Grandma and grandpa aren't applying to college right now. You are. So talking a little bit about word count, sometimes less is more. So someone will have a 1,000 word count and they write 1,200 words. And they really will get upset and they kind of freak out over the idea of how do I get rid of 200 words? I put a lot of effort into this. I'll read over it and I can easily get it down, get rid of 300, 400 words. Because a lot of times you're adding things you don't need to add. So just a quick, easy example. If I'm going to say on Tuesday morning, I slept very well, which was a surprise because usually my brother snores really loudly and everyone in the entire house can't help but stay up all night. Fortunately, my brother was over at a friend's house, so he wasn't there, so I had a great night's sleep. Then I woke up and went to school. So if it's really crucially important that we know that you got a good night's sleep for the rest of this essay, okay, sure, you can include that. But I'm going to bet the odds are we don't need to know about your brother's snoring. You could have just started, when I went to school, and then there's your essay. So just think about that. Are you adding extra info that's not really important? Sometimes less is more. One more thing I need to emphasize, don't be excessively wordy. Do I need to know that someone was wearing a bright fire engine red t-shirt? Or can I get away with just knowing they were wearing a red t-shirt? If you're writing a novel, I think those are great details to have. But you have a very limited amount of words you get to use, so don't waste them. The other thing that's a lot more common that I see is someone will say, I was really, really tired. Do I need to know that you were really, really tired? Can I instead just know that you were really tired? Or maybe that you were just tired? So start to look at that and think, am I adding excessive words that I don't need? I am definitely not saying you need to go through that essay and just start getting rid of words here and there, but just ask yourself, especially if you're having trouble with word count, are there some things that I easily can get rid of that will help me get to my point faster?
Hi, this again is Robert Oliveri from the University of Maryland, and I'm happy to talk to you a little bit today about the college admissions essay. Our college admissions essay is required through any of the application platforms, and you have multiple different options of prompts to respond to, whether you want a general prompt about how you got through a challenging time during your senior year, or choose your own topic. There's multiple different options for you. One thing or a unique tip that I would advise students on is the fact that this is yours. This is going to be the easiest essay you wrote because it's about yourself, but it also makes it difficult. So really think about times that are unique and stand out to you. If you're one of those students who has maybe felt that you haven't had any serious or super special opportunities or things to really speak on for this essay portion, that's okay. Being yourself and doing everyday things can turn into phenomenal opportunities. And I'll give you an example. One essay that I wrote or read recently was about a student walking through high school with 6 different masks. And they were talking about the different emotions they felt, and the different masks, and the different opportunities, and the different things that they were going throughout their high school career. That wasn't anything special. It wasn't an extenuating circumstance. It was just the life they lived. They described it very well, and they wrote it very well, which made a phenomenal essay to really understand who the person was and their writing skills and abilities.
As I said before, you got to tell your story, whatever your story is. Don't tell them what you think they want to hear. Talk about the real you. That's important. Another thing to remember, this isn't a timeline. So don't just say, I woke up, then I went to school, then I went to math class, then I took a test in math class, and then I went to football practice, and then when I went home, I did my homework, and then I went to sleep. You probably fell asleep already while I was saying that. That's not interesting. Don't give us a timeline of events. Tell us a story. Your admissions essay is a story. It's a story about you. Even if they're saying, why do you love our school? It's still about you, even though you might think, well, I got to talk about the school. No, you got to talk about you. You're always going to talk about you. So reflect on those events that happened. When you took that math test in my boring example, what was the feelings that you had? What were the things that you learned? Did you learn that you couldn't stay up until 3 a.m. the past day because now you're really tired and you couldn't focus on this math test? Did you learn that you need to study? Did you learn that you need to actually complete your homework? Did you learn that you need to show up on time because you didn't show up on time and then you didn't have enough time to finish the test? There's a lot of examples of what you could have learned. So you need to reflect on what happened. Don't just say what happened. Colleges want mature young adults who are going to make their college better. Show your maturity. You don't want to come across like a child. You want to come across as a 16 or 17, 18-year-old who is ready to take that next step into adulthood. So you want to show that you are ready to do that. You might want to even show that you kind of have already done it, that you are already at that maturity level. You already can handle this. So show your progress. Who you were freshman year is not who you are senior year of high school. And one of my favorite things I like to tell people, be specific. You don't need to tell me every single little detail necessarily. I don't need to know exactly what you ate for lunch and how quickly you ate it, but tell me a specific story. Sometimes people will think, all right, I need to say something from, encompassing all of high school or all of my life. And that's not the case. Oftentimes you would be better telling a story that has a bunch of specific details about 1 minute instead of 1 or 2 details about an hour where I'm just throwing everything that happened but not actually talking about any of it. So be specific. So if you want to talk about how you didn't do well in a class, you don't need to talk about the entire year of not doing well and some of the information before that and what happened afterwards. Talk about one test where you didn't do well and you realized you needed to study, because that summarizes all of it. Remember, don't worry if this first draft isn't very good. You need to have something written in order to start improving that essay. So even if you just need to throw out words, just start talking and writing it out. It doesn't matter if it's not grammatically correct or whatever. Just do bullet points if you have to. Just do something. Do something. Put it on paper, because now you can start working. Now you can make this better. Now you can improve. Now you can get help.
All right, so a tip that I would usually provide regarding essay writing is just to remember that in your college application, a lot of what you're going to be submitting is very quantitative types of information. So if you think about it, your GPA, so the grades you've gotten, that's a number that's very quantitative. A test score, if a school is going to require that, very quantitative, right? But things like your admission essay and your activities list, those are opportunities on your application where you can really show your quality, your character, who you very authentically are. So I think my biggest tip for the college essay is just to make sure that you are utilizing that platform as an opportunity to show admission counselors who are reading your applications who you are and why you think you will be a good fit for their institution by showing really your character and what you care about. Don't just answer the essay and pretend to be something maybe you're not. Maybe you're just trying to act like what you think an admission counselor wants to hear or wants to read. But just make sure that you really are showing who you are, because the school that it goes ahead and accepts you based off of that admission essay and other characteristics, that means it's a mutual fit. So I just really encourage you to be your most authentic self in your essay.
I've included the Common App prompts. Common application is an application most every student is going to fill out because you can send it to many different schools. They're going to have you write one of these 6 prompts. Take a look at the prompts, pause the video if you need to look over them, or you can just Google search Common App essay prompts. Take a look and start to think about what you might want to write about. This is your story, so think about what works for you. But the cool thing about the Common App, if you hate all 6 of these admissions essay prompts, here's what you can do. They have a 7th prompt. This 7th prompt is write about whatever you want. So if you don't like any of these, you can write about anything that you want to write about. So just take a look, decide what you think is going to help you, what you think is going to fill out the rest of your portfolio. Remember, they've already got your grades, the classes you've taken, your activities. What's missing? What else can you add in your admissions essay that's going to make you a more well-rounded student, that's going to give them information they didn't have before? So that's what you want to take a look at. Please reach out if you have any questions. I am available. My email is right there for you to see. That is mweber@maine207.org. Just reach out. We'll talk. I can help you plan. I can help you edit. Whatever it is that you need. But the key thing you got to know is it's time to start working on these admissions essays, because the more time you have to work on them, the better off you're going to be.